Baseball Hell is a production of Monkey Butt Enterprises. No animals were harmed in the making of this podcast. Well, hello everybody. It's Sunday, May 5th, and you're in Baseball Hell. How are we doing today, Davis?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing well, Tommy. How about yourself?
Doing just fine. Yeah, you up to anything mischievous this week or anything exciting?
No, nothing too much. As you know, Tom, as I said last week, we spent a lot of time doing research and spending all this time for our fans, so that they are in the know about all the things that are going on this week. And it's sometimes we have to sacrifice things.
Well, and you learned that in college. That's where you developed these great study habits, right?
That's correct. There are a lot of times that I had to study so much, and by study I mean heading out to the tavern to meet the people and to find out who they were and what they liked. I found out about our audience that way, not so much about school.
One thing I remember about you, Davis, and you did study radio and television broadcasting when you were at Southern Illinois, by the way, for the listeners at home.
Let's just say that was my major, but go ahead.
That way, but I used to tell people this story that you often wouldn't even buy the book to one of your classes, and you had a little trick where you would go to the bookstore and study maybe for about an hour before the test. That was your idea of preparation for an important test.
Right. I would lay in an aisle that was usually not, that wasn't there weren't too many people in it.
Reading the radio and television broadcasting book half an hour before.
A very small book.
And then I believe one time you told me that the one time I remember you even told me that the person that worked there came over to you and said, "Hey, listen, if you're not going to buy the book, you just need to get on out of here."
I said that was somebody else. I just got here. And I would bring a change of shirts to throw them off. Or sometimes I would just turn my shirt inside out, and then the guy said, I can see the tag, just go.
Those were the days, Davis.
Yeah, but you got to do what you have to do,
Just to have beer money on the weekend. Yeah, you didn't want to spend that money on books.
no. There was a lot of kegs to buy and a lot of, as I said, people to see. It was all about research, Tommy. You have to know your audience in radio and television, and that's what I did.
Hey, you don't have to tell me. I get it.
Thank you. I'm happy about it. What about you? You must have had an interesting week. I mean,
I did actually have an interesting week because this was the 8th Battle of the Bands where I work.
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
And I have a band that participates in it.
hmm,
And we did our best. We came out and gave it everything I had. I'm the singer. And I know I gave it everything I had because as soon as we were done and I walked backstage, I came within about an inch of tossing my cookies.
Almost lost my cool there.
So I figured
yeah.
I was satisfied that I had put in a solid effort. But we didn't get in the top 3. There were 9 bands. We did not get in the top 3, and that's for the sake of everyone's ego. That's about all they tell you. So we might have taken 4th, or we might have taken 9th. I don't know. And maybe it's better that I don't know.
As I always say, 9th place is not 10th. So you did well.
Thank you, Davis.
Speaking of rock and roll, Tommy, and I just happened to think about this, and I meant to bring this up last week, but I'm glad you brought up this rock thing, because did you notice who got into the Hall of Fame this year, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year?
I must have just missed that.
Well, there's several bands in there, and Cher got in to the Rock
Oh,
and Roll
thank
Hall
God.
of Fame. Now, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland, and it is a wonderful, great experience from what I have understood. I've never been there myself, but
Nor
it's a
have I.
wonderful experience, and everybody who's been there recommends it because of all the greats. But it's gotten to the point now where Dolly Parton is in, Cher is in, and you know who was nominated but didn't make it?
Who was that?
Jane's Addiction. And I mean, these are rock and rollers. And Oasis did not make it.
I was always a fan of Oasis. I like them.
But I saw a quote from Liam Gallagher, who, after the band was nominated, he tweeted this, and this is the quote. I'm going to quote him here.
This is after the nomination, but before the results were announced.
That's when they were nominated. He said, F, and I think you know what that word is. F the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's full of bumbaclarts in big letters. Bumbaclarts.
Is that a Gaelic term?
I hope this isn't something that's going to offend some people because I have no idea what that means. But it's full of bumbaclarts, and I don't need some wank award by some geriatric in a cowboy hat. I didn't do the accent from Liam Gallagher.
Piss off!
But that's what his quote was. So, but it just how does Cher get in, Tommy?
She was married to Sonny Bono, and that propelled her popularity.
I should do more research on that because I don't.
No, he's in the skiing accident Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, he made that one. Is
He was
John Denver in that one, or
John
he was
Denver's
in?
in the plane flying Hall of Fame with JFK Jr.
Oh wow, John Denver was in some kind of some kind of glider. He was in some kind of I don't know, some kind of a new thing, a glider, and he thought, I'm going to fly this thing. And then about halfway through it, he said, maybe I should not have flown this thing. But the problem was he was already flying the thing, and he might have been Rocky Mountain High at the time. I'm not really sure, but that's speculation.
And we don't like to speculate.
That's right. It might have been, maybe rainy days and Mondays got him down. I mean, I'm talking about his plane.
Wait a minute, that's not a John Denver song, is it?
I'm going to look that up, Tommy. But well, congratulations anyway on just the actual thought of that you went out there and performed.
It was a top 10 finish.
The song I was thinking about with John Denver was "Sunshine on My Shoulders,"
There you go.
and yeah, I don't know what his shoulders look like after that plane crash, but there could have been sunshine on them. I'm not really
It
sure.
could have right down to the bone.
Leaving on a jet plane, that was one of his songs.
Did he write that? That was
Dying on my private plane, I think, is what he wrote.
Well, anyway, Davis, let's talk about some baseball. How about those Cubs?
Yeah, the Cubs are doing okay. They even with some tough losses, they seem to keep bouncing back, like we've
Yeah.
talked about. They started out in New York. After we spoke last, they started out in New York.
Cubs come into that series at 17-11.
That's right, and then they have Luis Severino on there. He
He
did
was
well with the
dealing.
Yankees. He was dealing, no hits, given up for 7 innings. But he's starting to throw a little extra pitches. This is a guy who's dealt with some injuries, and he's up in about the 80s, 90s, and he hits a guy in the eighth.
Swanson, I think, got a bloop single off of him, didn't he?
Got a hit.
They tried for the double play. I was watching the recap on this, and I'm like, why did he not throw home on that slow roller? And they tried for the double play and didn't get it, and the run scored.
That's right. There was a first and third. I think it was one out, and the game was tied. Yeah, or the Cubs went ahead on that one. It was a first and third, nobody with one out, and they instead of going home, the third baseman threw to second, which he's throwing against the grain, and yes, it's a long throw to second, and then back to first. And
It was definitely a full round the horn attempt at a double play on a slow rolling ball to begin with. It was not the wisest of decisions.
No, probably should have gone home.
Yep.
Should have gone home to get the second out, and then. But it did not happen, and the Cubs end up winning it. But Jason Talon looked good as well.
Very good.
He was pitching very well. He was with them all the way.
He had 7 1/3 with only 4 hits and 1 earned run.
One walk. He only struck out one guy, but that's so good because he only had like 70, 80 pitches, something like that.
Sometimes that works in your favor, right? If you're trying to get too many strikeouts, which everybody wants to get, especially these days, but you can rack up your pitch count real quick.
And then Leiter comes in, and then Neris comes in and got through the for the save, and the Cubs win.
Morel
Uh,
homered in this game.
Morel home run off of Evan Diaz, one of the best relievers in baseball.
Yep.
So
So Teon, after this game, had a 1.50 ERA. That's pretty damn good.
he did very well. And so they didn't hit much the next day on Tuesday, the 30th of April. They only had 4 hits. Assad pitched well, but here comes Adbert Alzolay and a 3-run homer,
Jesus Christ.
and he's given up a lot of them. And it's over. Sixth inning, they brought him in the sixth. They're giving him low level situations,
Yeah.
and he's still giving up home
He's
runs.
not doing the ninth inning anymore. They're bringing him in like one of the first guys out. Now, there was an error in this game, and I can't remember who made it, but the three of the runs that the Mets scored were tallied as unearned.
Yes, they were unearned, but still the home run. You
Yeah.
know.
Okay. So they split the first two games, heading to game three. Cubs are 18-12 at this point.
And first day of May, they get into the new month, and Imanaga comes out and again just
Oh,
shuts
lights
down
out. Yeah.
the Mets.
And I saw that the Cubs win this game 1-0. Your boy Pete Lecoq Crow Armstrong with a sacrifice fly to drive in that run.
Yeah, and then in the I think it was the ninth inning, the Cubs have or there was one on, one out, and there was a deep fly ball, and Armstrong looked like he had it, but as he jumped up, he hits the wall.
Yeah,
The ball drops out.
trying to make a circus catch.
Yeah, I think he's always looking for that catch that's going to make the highlight reels, you know. But
Yes, this was close.
this was close, but it pops out. He can't believe it now. But because it looked like he was going to catch it, the guy on first only makes it to third.
Yeah, I was wondering how he didn't score on that.
He wasn't sure. He was kind of a no man's land between first and
So
second.
was there was one out when this happened?
Right, and
Okay.
Talkman got the ball in, only one out, and Talkman gets the ball out, gets the ball in quickly. And now they have second and third one out, so they didn't want a chance that the guy run around third and possibly be thrown out. So they have second and third one out. It's looking good. Next batter, it's a fly ball to left field. Hap grabs it. It's over by the wall. Pete Alonso's running. Now, Pete Alonso's running. They didn't pinch run for him because earlier in the game, Francisco Lindor went out with a
He was
stomach
ill.
virus. So they had to replace him, and they didn't really have too much left. They didn't have anybody. They're short on the bench. They didn't have anybody to pinch run. So Pete Alonso, who's
Okay.
probably not the fastest guy, is
No,
on deck.
you're being generous by saying he was running. Pete Alonso doesn't run; he lumbers.
But he's running from. It looks like it's going to be a sacrifice fly, and the throw comes in from Hap to Madrigal. Madrigal goes out. Excellent play by Madrigal, and Madrigal throws a strike home. Throws a strike home. It was a picture perfect
Perfect relay. Yep.
play. Hap's not going to throw this guy out on the fly, but even Alonso. But he throws it. Madrigal takes the ball, throws it a perfect strike, and Amaya is the catcher for the Cubs, and he looks like he might have his foot on the base, which is
That's legal now. It used to be, it was illegal last year. You are allowed to have your foot on the base this year. You're still not allowed to block them from having a lane.
right. So Alonso comes in. His hand goes in between. It looks like it goes in between uh, Amaya, the catcher's legs, and it looks like it still beats the throw. But
It did.
his hand goes up, and because he gets his hand in between the legs, he's not actually blocking the lane.
Yep.
So he's called out. So the Mets challenge the call, but the call goes the Cubs' way. The challenge says no. Not only is he not blocking the lane, which the Mets argued, and they still are not happy about it. But the tag came in beforehand, so the Cubs won both challenges, and both sides of that challenge, and they win the game 1-0. Exciting game.
It really was. And if you have not seen that replay, go back and watch it. Awesome camera work. And they show that, yes, indeed, his hand does go in. And in fact, he is at the plate before he's getting tagged, but his hand is about 2 to 3 inches above the plate, and he's trying to pull it down and touch, and he gets tagged before he can complete that
Right.
process. But they really had such an awesome view of it. It was okay. So they win that one 1-0, 19-12. Chance to take 3 out of 4 heading into game 4.
They do, and they have a afternoon getaway game. And Ben Brown starts for the Cubs, and he's a little shaky. Walked 5 guys, but they still had a 4-0 lead going
Yeah,
into the
things
fifth
were
inning.
looking up. Morel hit a 3-run homer.
Morel hit a 3-run home run. He's been popping the ball out of the ballpark, but the walks killed him. And then Keegan Thompson comes in. He's been pretty good in long relief, and he comes in. Well, he gives up more runs, and then we're tied after 5. It comes down to extra innings, and fitting because of what happened the night before with the play at home plate. The Cubs get 2
Yes,
guys thrown out,
karma.
one in the 10th actually, and then to end the 10th, and then once in the 11th. And Madrigal was one of the guys thrown out. It's karma. So and once in the 11th, and the Cubs lose the game in 11 innings. Because in the bottom of the 11th, they had the 1-run lead, but they give up a 2-run double. Palencia gives up a 2-run double.
To Lindor. Lindor pulled a Michael Jordan here. He's sick. He comes out. He hits a 2-run double earlier in the game, and then he hits the walk-off 2 RBI hit in extra innings, even though he was supposedly puking his guts out before the game.
So he comes down there, and of course, instead of grabbing him, they all went away from him.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where he actually chased the other players.
Did they mob him?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, no, there's going to be a bunch of them sick. Maybe that'll help the Cardinals because they're playing the Mets this week.
So a lot of plays at home plate. One went the Cubs' way, a couple didn't go, and that's the Cubs' start of the week with 2-2 with the Mets.
Yeah, they split 2 with the Mets on the road. Not too bad. So the Cardinals, on the other hand, come in starting the week with a record of 13-15. They're at Detroit. Supposed to play on Monday, but the game gets washed out. So they play a doubleheader on Tuesday. And game 1, they're playing against their old friend Jack Flaherty. And Flaherty cranked it up a notch or two against his old mates. He had 14 strikeouts in 6 2/3 innings.
Yeah. I don't know why they gave up on Flaherty so quickly.
They had him since like 2018, 2019. He did 6 years, I believe, with the Cardinals, and he was going to be up for contract. They were going to have to pay him a lot of money, and with his injury history, they just weren't confident in doing it.
I see.
So anyway, this game, but Kyle Gibson almost matched him. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run. He had 9 strikeouts. He's doing pretty well, 3.79 ERA after this game. Matthew Liberatore came in, held him, and the Cardinals actually stole this game. They were losing 1-0 into the ninth and scored 2 runs in the top of the ninth. And Helsley came in and pitched the bottom and got his 10th save.
Yeah,
He's
they did steal that game. They after looking so poorly, and
Oh
we'll
yeah.
get into the offense a little bit down the line. But so they follow that up with
Yeah, so then game 2 come out. Game 2 was a little bit more of a wild one. Cardinals got down 4-0 early. Burleson hits a 3-run homer. Cards get back. In fact, they're up 5-4 in the 5th inning. But the real problem with this game, Mats only lasts 3 1/3 innings. They aren't able to get to their tier 1 bullpen, of Jojo Romero, Kittredge, and Helsley, and they have to try to fill a couple innings with some tier 2 arms. Leahy, Fernandez, and Gallegos combined for 2 2/3 innings and 7 earned runs.
Jesus Christ.
So
hmm,
this one just got out of hand before they could bring in the better part of their bullpen. They're down. They've given up 11 runs, and this one got away. Mats, by the way, left the game early with back pain. Plus, he was getting rocked. He's on the 15-day injured list, which you know I don't know what they're going to do with him. It seems he's either pitching poorly or he's injured probably 3/4 of the time. Um, So,
So a combination of both. If he's injured, he's not going to be doing well.
yeah. And another guy who's really, really struggling, Gallegos. God, at the end of this game, he had a 9.00 ERA. And by the way, you'll see that gets worse as the week continues. Something's really up with that guy.
How long has he been in the league?
Um, they got
Or
him from the Yankees like I want to say at least 3 years ago, maybe four. He's been an important part of their bullpen. He's been an eighth inning guy for the last 2 3 years.
and he's done well.
He has. He really has. I think that he's pitched. He's made a lot of appearances. He may have just kind of burned out, but I guess we'll see as
Hmm.
this season progresses whether he's able to bounce back or not. He didn't look too bad early in the year, but he has done incredibly poorly since then. Yeah, rubber game. Detroit, they lose 4-1. Michaelis gives up a couple home runs. Um, Tigers are up 3-0 after three. Cardinal offense just really doing sub nothing as usual. Contreras hits a solo homer in the fourth, and that's all they get for the game. So the Cardinals, yeah, they get out of Detroit with only one win. Lucky to have gotten that. They're 14-17 at this point, and still trying to get out of the cellar in the division. I think they were up on Pittsburgh by a half a game. Not really making much happen.
up on them, up on them
Yeah.
for last place, if we're
Well,
talking
after
about. But
Pittsburgh lost like five in a row, right? Yeah.
yeah,
It's not like the Cardinals caught the Pirates. The Pirates caught the Cardinals.
I see. From what I understand, Tommy, we have a guest in the studio
Oh,
today.
we do. Well, that's awesome. Who is it?
Did you put the headphones on, sir? He signs in as Harley Walleye, 84 years old. Is that correct? That is correct. Thank you. Am I on the radio?
Yes, you are, Mr. Walleye. You go right ahead. Tell us your story.
Yeah, tell us your story, Mr. Walleye. From what we understand, you're a groundskeeper at St. Louis Busch Stadium, and you've been doing this for this year. You were doing this for 60 years. Is this correct? And that's correct. Is this going out to St. Louis? This broadcast?
St. Louis and beyond.
Well, I'd like to say hello to my cousin Edna. I've been a groundskeeper since 1964 for St. Louis, and that includes three different ballparks: the old Sportsman's,
Hmm.
uh, and the Bush Stadium One
Hmm.
and
Of
Bush
course.
Stadium Two. So it's my 60th year, and they were going to have an honor for me. It rained out of all things.
Oh, that's too bad.
I always dreamt about having maybe a statue or something up
Uh,
there with all the great.
Instead of people say meet me at Mutual, they'd say meet me at Walleye.
That's something that people I've known said, "Hey, you should have that," and I said, "Yeah, I should," but the teams never approached me or anything like that. Maybe someday, maybe I can get the word out. But anyway, 60 years, and I got a job with the Cardinals, and haven't looked back. Well, I did get uh, laid off when they put the new stadium in back in '66. The artificial turf that cost a lot of people their jobs.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, you think it's funny, but I was working at a hardware store. Fortunately for me, not for the people it happened to, but about three of the people who are still working there at New Bush Stadium, they were hit by lightning,
Oh.
and yeah, and one of them just they said his head just exploded, but
You weren't
uh,
there, of course, at that time.
no, but they called me and they said, you should come in and come back to work. They said we can't really pay you. We can give you as many hot dogs you can eat, but because we don't really need too many people with the artificial turf and all that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was an Amazozia man always, and and then the artificial turf came in, and that was bad. That was bad on the players' knees, and
It used to get hot.
oh, it'd be sometimes on that field, it'd be 120 degrees, and
Hmm.
I'd be on there. One time I fell over on second base. I had a stroke, and they took that thing that they used to drag the field.
Yeah.
The dirt, they just dragged me right off. Well, they finished dragging the field with me on top of it, but there's only so much time between innings. But
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen you guys have to hustle.
oh, you gotta move, and I still have it, even with the artificial leg and everything. Now, I still can do this, but my son, he's about 450 pounds now. He's working on that. I blame myself. I brought
Yeah.
home too many hot dogs, and my dog got choking on one time, and I lifted him up, and I'm like on his hind legs, and I gave. You ever give a dog a Heimlich, Tommy? It's not easy. As a matter of fact, a couple of people called the cops. They thought I was doing some bad relations with the dog. I've been behind it, pushing
Oh.
yeah, I had it took me like 6 months to get that off my record. It, Ward Davis thinks that's funny. I don't know why, but my third wife, she's somewhere around here. She's 26 years old, and she says, "Get out in that field." But she keeps me going, and she tells me all the time. She says, "Just keep working."
Yeah. It's good advice.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, Mr. Walleye.
I sure appreciate it, and I love the Cardinals, love the Cardinal fans, and Ward Davis. My wife says he's a jerk, but they told me last week. They said probably you should stop, and I said I'd never stop. I was not stop till I drop, and then they put me on a bus.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up with you then, Mr. Walleye, and maybe we'll have you back on again some other time. Well, thank you very much.
I'd love to be on. When would that be?
That'll be later.
Oh, okay. Can you give me a date? Can you tell me exactly when that would be? Because I'd sure love to know. I think it's time to go, Mr. Walley. Okay. How do I just go out? Do you have a toilet?
Well, that was Mr. Walleye. What was his first name again?
Harley. Did you notice he was wearing his groundskeeper shirt and there was still like pieces of grass on it?
Okay. Well, let's get into the second half of the week, Davis. The Cubs at home against the Milwaukee Brewers. Battle for first place.
Battle for first place. Craig Counsell's Brewers coming into town. The old Craig Counsell's old team.
Yeah. So the Cubs at this point, they're one game behind the Brewers, sitting there at 19 and 13.
They are one game behind, a chance to pull ahead of the Brewers. And on game one, Wisniewski comes in, another young star for the Cubs who's done well with the Cubs. With
Yes, he has. He has a microscopic ERA.
I think he goes 6 1/3 scoreless, and he leaves. And who comes in but Adbert Alzolay?
Yeah.
Now Alzolay comes in with one out in the seventh, gives up a single. He does get one out, but he gives up a single. But the problem was every time he would give up these little bloop singles, and then they'd steal
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
Single, stole second.
Yep.
So the next guy, single, RBI, steals second. Next guy, single, RBI, steals second.
So they had three steals in the same inning?
Yeah, they had,
Wow.
yeah, and all three of the runners scored.
Oh. Now, is that Alzolay's inability to hold runners on, or is that Amaya?
A little bit of both. He leaves to booze with two outs in the inning,
Mm.
and the fans boo
He's
him,
getting booed at
and
Wrigley?
he's getting booed.
Ooh. Yeah, his ERA is up to 5.54. He pitched a third of an inning, 4 hits, 3 earned runs.
Right, and he's given up runs, and like you said earlier, some of those runs he gave up earlier were unearned, and it's still his ERA is close to
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
And he's blown, I believe he's blown about 5 saves now.
So this one gets away from the Cubs.
Gets away. The Cubs lose 3-1, but they weren't hitting either. And they haven't been hitting all that well. They've been doing some good situational hitting, but they haven't been hitting all that well.
I was going to say that about this team. If you look at their averages, their ops, it's not eye popping. You would think their performance would be more like the Cardinals, not quite as bad, but they are getting key situational hits and they're hitting their share of home runs.
Other than the bullpen, their starters have been keeping them in, even though that Steele, their best starter from last year, has been out with an injury. Hendricks has not pitched up to Hendricks quality, but the youngsters, like we spoke of early in the season, the youngsters have come up and they've provided some depth and they provided some. So it'll be interesting to see when if Hendricks comes back and Steele comes back, who's
Yeah. What role will Hendricks have? Because Steele's obviously going to be in that rotation in a primary spot. Hendricks might be odd man out. Because speaking of these youngsters, the next game, Teon pitches.
Teon has done well again. He goes scoreless. The bullpen almost blows it. Leiter has been great.
So Teon gives them 6 innings, no runs. Leiter gets the seventh and the eighth with no runs, and they turn it over to Neris.
Neris does it. He seems to put a couple guys on, but he somehow gets the save. And they almost blew it again. They had a lead and they win. They hold on. They win 6-5. Now they've evened up the series.
Cubs hit 3 home runs in this game. Horner led off the game with a home run, right? That was his first of the year. Morel hit his seventh, and Patrick Wisdom got his first home run.
Patrick Wisdom hit one out, yeah, and I think he could be another one of those odd men out. Patrick Wisdom. I
That's a
think
good
he might
bat to
end
have
up
on the
back.
bench, though. Guy that can come in and he can come in and pinch hit a home run for you.
That's all he can do. He either hits a home run or strikes out, and it's not enough. I think that might have been his first or second home run of the year. I'm
It
not
was his
really
first.
sure.
Brewers scored 4 runs off Keegan Thompson.
Yeah, again,
Yeah, because Cubs were up 5-0 after 6 innings.
yeah, they were up 5-0, and they almost blew it, but they did hold on. They come back today, and Assad, another one of those guys, with Wisniewski and Ben Brown and Talia and Imanaga. Assad again is excellent, and he steps up and holds the Brewers scoreless, and the Cubs shut out the Brewers today 5-0 to pull into a tie for first place.
Yeah, they scored 3 runs in the bottom of the fifth and pretty much had this one in the bag after that. So yeah, I'm looking at these stats. In those 3 games, the Cubs starting pitching gave up no runs. I didn't even realize that till just now. Wisniewski pitched 6 1/3 with no runs. Teon, 6 innings, no runs. Assad, 6 innings, no runs.
Yeah, done well. I think if they could keep these guys going, and Steele comes back, and somehow Hendricks comes back to. But Hendricks goes from the top of the order to probably the bottom of that list. But I would think that when the Steele comes back, I would think that Ben Brown might be
Yeah.
moved into either the minors or long bullpen, and maybe even Wisniewski.
Well, you got Wisniewski, Teon, Assad, then you got Imanaga, and if you add Steele, there's your 5. That's a pretty damn good rotation.
If those youngsters, that the first 3 you mentioned, can hold up.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so Cubs end their week tied for first place. I think they're behind by a few percentage points, but for all intents and purposes, tied for first with the Brewers. Way to go, Cubbies! They are 21-14.
I still say they stink.
So the Cardinals, on the other hand, trying to get healthy against the White Sox, the lowly White Sox, but it turns out the Cardinals are just as lowly. First game, Cardinals do win it 3-0. Arenado finally waking up. He goes 2 for 4, drives in 3 runs. He had a couple of doubles. Sonny Gray pitched 7 innings, didn't give up a run. By the way, he's got a 0.89 ERA. This guy's been earning his money.
I think he and then Managa might be right now early Cy Young candidates,
Yeah,
two of our pitchers. So.
yeah, with the edge to Imanaga at this point. He's pitched more games. Romero and Helsley combined to pitch the 8th and 9th, giving up no runs once again. Romero 1.62 ERA, Helsley 1.59. He got his 11th save. The bullpen of the Cardinals definitely the strong point of the team, especially the 7, 8, 9 inning guys. Romero, Kittredge, Helsley, they've just been all but untouchable. But it's the hitting that's dragging them down. I mentioned Arenado went 2 for 4. The rest of the team went 4 for 27. So they had 6 hits in this game. Game 2, Cardinals lose 6-5. Sox got up early 3-0. Arenado hit a 3-run homer, had put the Cards ahead at one point, but late in this game, Tommy Pham comes through in the 11th, puts the Sox up 6-5. The bottom of the 11th, the Cardinals get the bases loaded, nobody out, trailing by a run. What do? 3 strikeouts.
We will be perfect in every aspect of the game.
Didn't even put the ball in play. And then they had a 3-hour rain delay between the second strikeout and the third.
That was what was the most interesting thing to me. I'm watching, I'm watching the Kentucky Derby. I'm watching the other things that I keep turning back. I'm like, are they going to finish this
Still
game?
in delay.
Two outs, two strikeouts in a row for the White Sox with the bases loaded.
And they actually had the first strike on Nolan Gorman when they rolled the tarp out. Yeah.
First strike on him, and it was pouring. It was just pouring
It
rain. The
was.
pitcher couldn't even get a grip on the ball.
It was John Brebbia, ex-Cardinal John Brebbia, who was pitching against him. But he
Right.
couldn't even get a hold of the ball.
And he kept running. He kept throwing the ball to the umpire, like, "Quick, give me the ball! Give me the ball! Give me the ball!" He wanted to get the
And he
game.
kept trying to put it under his glove to keep it dry, and then it would just be soaked.
3 hours, 3 minute delay.
He had to be scared to death that he was going to throw a wild pitch, right? You're sitting there trying to
Yeah,
hold this soaking wet ball, bases loaded, right? And you're gonna throw a wild pitch and tie the
yeah.
game up.
3 hours, 3 minute delay, and the game goes 3 pitches, less than a minute, and it's over.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, did you see the call? CB Buckner he's every bit as bad as Angel Hernandez.
Yeah, it didn't look like a strike.
Oh no, it was about 5 inches, 6 inches off the plate, and he would have struck out anyway, I'm sure. Yeah, so the Cardinals dropped this one 6-5 in really truly ugly fashion. Game 3 today, the Cardinals, the return of Dylan Carlson. Hey, things are looking up, right? Now the Cardinals can have their third center fielder of the year who will bat less than 200. So they get him back. He goes 0 for 3. Cardinals. This was a bullpen game. This would have been Matz's start. They started Liberatore not with the idea of getting 5 innings out of him. They pulled him, I think, after 4, and brought in Kyle Leahy. Liberatore pitched well, but the team's just not hitting. Then they ended up bringing in Gallegos again. Gallegos Davis pitched to 3 batters. What did he do? He gave up a home run, a double, and another double.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
So in his last 4 innings that he's pitched, he's given up 10 earned runs. He gave up 3 earned today. All 3 of those batters he faced today scored. His ERA is 12.00.
I believe that the only ball really hit really hard on him though was that Eloy Jimenez home run. But
Yeah.
there was one that was a line drive down the line, and it hit the chalk on the. I mean, just when things like some of the lucky things that have been happening to the Cubs, when things go wrong. I mean, an inch that way, and it's not a double, but then again, if your only run is Contreras' home run,
Yeah.
then you're down 5-1. That doesn't really matter anymore.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You can't even blame this one on Gallegos, really. Yeah, Contreras hit his 6th home run. That's their only run of the day. So here it is in this series, Dave. They play the White Sox, 28th in pitching, right?
Yes,
First game, Cardinals got 6 hits. Second game, they got 5 hits. Third game, 4 hits. They batted 153 for the series, once again, against the 28th ranked pitching staff in Major League Baseball. I don't know what else to say.
that's not good, Tommy. It just
No.
I figure this would be the start of a move for the Minnesota Twins had they started their winning streak against the White Sox.
Right.
When they went like 10, 11, 12 in a row or
I
something
think
like
they
that.
won at least 11 in a row.
I think they lost today, but
But yeah, it started off with a sweep against the
sweep of the
Sox.
White
Yeah.
Sox, and I'm mistaken. This would be the way for the Cardinals to possibly get. They're at home. You start off with a win. You get a little confidence. You get the offense going against the 28th ranked pitching staff, and uh, and then nothing. They lose 2 out of 3 at home.
Yeah, at home. It's just there's no excuse for this. And so yeah, I was looking at some numbers here. This is the 11th time of the season the Cardinals have scored less than 2 runs. That's almost a third of their games. They can't even score 2 runs. They're averaging less than 3.5. They scored 9 in this series, so they averaged 3. But I was looking at some of the stats here. Newt Barr's batting 169 with 1 homer. Ciani, they had him starting in center field, batting 191 with no homers. Nolan Gorman, 182. Jordan Walker was batting 155 before they sent him down to AAA. Goldschmidt, 208. Donovan, here's your leadoff man, batting 215. Uh, it's horrible. It's just horrible. The only and a couple of guys that had respectable batting averages and ops. If you take a closer look, Wynn is batting 266. He has no homers, and you'd say, hey, that's pretty good. But in his last 15 games, he's batting 170. Herrera, he's down to 210. He's 6 for his last 39 in his last 15 games. So both of those guys have been under 200 for their life. So on any given day, the Cardinals are rolling out 4 starters that are batting, 3 or 4 starters that are batting under 200, and another 3 that are maybe, in the 210 range with not much power.
And I was looking at the game today with the Cardinals, and I see that on the bench, I'm thinking, well, who are these guys? They keep running these guys out, trying to get them to hit like the veterans, but. And then like, well, who's on the bench? And I look, and there's Gorman on the bench, and he's hitting 195, and Burleson, and
Brendan Crawford, he's batting 105.
yeah, and none of these guys seem to. There's no answer. I don't know. The Marmo that has no. It doesn't. He's running these people out there because it's the only thing he can do. You got to keep putting Arenado and Goldschmidt and Contreras and all these people in because these are the only people that have a chance, and they will come back. But there's nothing worse when you're losing when your offense is bad. I mean,
It's
you
so
can,
bad.
you
Yeah.
can, you can, as long as you can get some hits and stuff and say, well, my pitching, we got to help the pitching. But it's it hurts really badly when you can't have hitting on your team because if you can't hit, you can't even watch.
Oh, and by the way, yeah, and for the people that you can't see this, folks that are listening to the podcast, but I've been wearing a bag over my head this entire broadcast.
I thought you sounded a little muffled,
Yeah.
and I saw the bag, and I'm thinking, is that why? But it was like the unknown comic bag. You have that hole there, with your eyes and your mouth. Yeah, I think there was still some groceries in that bag though, because I saw a piece of while we were talking, I saw a piece of lettuce fall out of the side of it.
Yeah. Well, but speaking of Mr. Marmol, do you think he's in any danger of losing his job?
Well, I think that they would, if they did that, if the Cardinals decided to do that, the way it says, that people would say, why did you give him that extension to begin with? I think he's good for the year. But after this year, maybe even into September he might be gone. But he's not. I would think. I'm not certainly not. As we say, Tommy, we're just casual watchers. We're not. Not we're fans, but we're not analysts and stuff. But we have no inside sources other than we should have asked the groundskeeper that came in
Yes,
earlier.
we should have asked Harley.
He might have had something, Harley Walleye. Maybe he would have been able to give us some answers. But I don't think that they would be admitting a mistake pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Why you gave this guy
Why'd
an
you give him
extension?
why'd you throw away a couple $1 million on 2 years of an extension for this guy? Yeah, because they got to pay him for 25 and 26 if they let him go.
Real quickly, I don't know if I could work this in real quick, but you said that they put Liberatore at the start the game today because they were a little bit. Their pitching staff's been a little stretched.
Short of a starter. Yeah.
And I'm wondering why they didn't bring up somebody from the AAA. They got for Jordan Hicks last year. They got this Jem Robertsy, or whatever
Robersay.
his name is. Anyway, he's pitched well in the minors. It would be a good situation, like the Cubs do every once in a while. They get a little stretch and they bring up some guys from the minors, and then they drop them back down again,
Yeah.
just to keep the Why didn't they bring this guy up to start?
I don't know. I was very surprised myself. I was very concerned because Liberators finally seems to be in a happy place. He's pitching well out of the bullpen after really struggling as a starter the last 2 3 years. I don't want him to mess with his head. Leave that guy alone and let him keep building up his confidence. And maybe someday he becomes a starter again. But I wouldn't force the issue. I don't know. I was very surprised they didn't bring somebody up, but we'll see. I think they're going to have to with Matt's on the 15-day disabled list or injured list, as they call it nowadays. But I was looking at some team stats, Davis. So home runs, Cubs are 10th, doing pretty good. Cardinals tied for last with the White Sox. Uh,
Oh boy.
yep, ops, Cubs in a respectable spot at 14th. Cardinals are 28th. Runs scored, Cardinals 29th. And keep in mind, folks, this is out of 30 teams. Cubs are fourth in runs scored. Like you mentioned earlier, they're not killing it in terms of batting average and ops, but they are getting timely hitting, driving in runs when guys get in scoring position. So they're fourth in runs. ERA, team pitching, Cubs are 14th, right about in the middle, and the Cardinals have slipped down to 18th.
And this is after today, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th of 2024.
So looking ahead, what do we got? Cubs tied for first place. They're going to be home against the Padres, first series of the week. They're off on Thursday, and they head out to Pittsburgh to play the Pirates. Cardinals back in last place, going to be home against the Mets, first three games, and they don't take a day off on Thursday. They're going to go to Milwaukee for a 4-game set with the Brew Crew. That could be quite crucial. If they get knocked around there, they could find themselves 9, 10 games out and pretty much had the season over with.
We've talked about it before, but I think the Brewers will come back and into come back a little bit into the division. They gave up so much pitching that just for them to hold on.
And if you look at their lineup, it doesn't look to be that intimidating.
No, I think that they will come back to the league a little bit or come back to what their record should be. I think the Cubs will have some issues if their young starters won't hold up. The Reds, the Pirates, you just don't know. When are they going to finally make a move? The Reds have lost 5 in a row now. You just don't know. And the Cardinals are always lingering or just hovering, I should
Yeah.
say.
No, I think the Cubs are in a really nice place right now. They've got to figure out this bullpen. They might need to make an acquisition, at least mid-year, to try to shore things up. Got to figure out what's wrong with Alzolay. Again, they need something out of him,
I looked it up. He does not have options, so they can't send him to the minors to work things out. They have to do so. They have to keep him on the roster or do
or
something.
lose.
I think it's a little too early to give up on him after he was one of their top prospects a few years ago and more as a starter, and now he's a reliever. He's had success, so I think we got to Cubs have got to pretty much hang on and just hope for the best and work with him and see if he can put him in some more low level situations, let him strike out a few people. But it looks like he's just laying that ball up there.
Well, and he's not the only guy who's not been producing in their bullpen. They need a couple guys to step up.
Yeah, Leiter's been good. Neris has been good, but iffy. I should say later. I always mispronounce, even though I'm a Cubs fan, Tommy. I mispronounce a lot of the teams, the players' names. Uh,
Just like Harry Carey used to.
Hello, everybody. By the way, there was a toast to Harry Carey this week, and at 5:30, I believe it was Thursday, there was the
Oh yeah.
Harry Carey toast here and all over the world. So I hope that at 5:30 Thursday, you maybe raised a glass and here he was a guy who was a Cardinals and Cubs broadcaster.
Yeah.
So
Hey, did you see the Marlins? I guess they've already started unloading and selling. They traded Arraez to the
Perez
Padres.
was a very good hitter, and I'm looking at him like, oh no. And now he's going to come and beat the Cubs probably the next couple
Oh,
of days.
that's right. They got the
Because
Padres to the first three games.
he hit the Cubs pretty well when the Cubs played Florida last week or so, and now here he's back.
Yeah. But I just
He's
thought that was
really
pretty
good.
funny. It's like, hey, well, the Marlins, they're not waiting around for that trade deadline. They're going to go ahead and start selling them off now.
Right, they got about five guys for him, and hoping for the best. It'd be tough to be a Marlins fan, you know. Just like, okay, we'll go all in 1 year, and then we're gonna then that's it. But they've won a
Yeah,
couple of championships that way,
they
so
did win
who
two
knows?
World Series titles that way. Yeah, they're sitting there 10 and 26, 14 games out already, and with no hope. They've been outscored by 68 runs.
Well, maybe the Cardinals will, if they continue on their on this path, maybe they'll do the same. And
They might. It could get really interesting with St. Louis, right? You got Goldschmidt sitting there on one corner, Arenado on another. Those guys are making a lot of money. I think Arenado's like 35 million a year, or 30 million a year. Goldschmidt 25. This is the last year on Goldschmidt's contract. You know, they want to hang on to Goldschmidt because when he retires, he's probably going to go in the Hall of Fame. They want to have another Cardinal in the Hall of Fame.
well, I don't think that's why you hold on to somebody.
I know if he can't hit 220, they're going to have to let that dream go.
They're gonna have to let that dream go. And another difference between Miami and the Cardinals is the Cardinals are in the division with the Brewers, Cubs, Reds, Pirates, and they're 5.5 back as poorly as they've played.
Right.
The Miami Marlins are in the division with the Phillies and the
Braves,
Braves.
and they're
You
14
know,
out already.
and they're 14 out. But it should be an interesting week coming up. I look forward to talking with you about it next week, Tommy.
Okay. So with that, Davis, why don't we wrap it up for this week and say goodnight, Davis?
Good night, Davis.